Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. Tali sat bolt upright in bed, her heart slamming against her ribs like something was chasing it. The alarm clock on her nightstand blinked a broken 8:30 in angry red digits, stuttering on and off like it had been possessed. The house was silent, too silent. Not even the groan of old pipes or the hum of her dad's morning coffee maker. Just static quiet, thick as the fog pressing against her bedroom window. She frowned and rubbed her eyes. "Damn it," she whispered. "Did the power go out again?" She threw off the covers, her breath visible in the room. It was freezing. November always bit hard, but this felt wrong, like the cold was coming from inside her bones. She rushed around, throwing on her hoodie and jeans, muttering curses as she shoved books into her backpack. No texts, no missed calls, no sound of her little brother playing his Xbox, no one yelling at her for being late. Where the hell was everyone? She ran downstairs. No one, not even the dog. The TV blinked black, kitchen untouched. A half-eaten apple sat on the counter like someone had just stepped away and never came back. Tali opened the front door. Fog swallowed her small cul-de-sac whole, a thick silvery wall. She stepped outside, her boots crunching on frostbitten leaves. The cold air hit her lungs sharp as glass. "Okay, what the actual hell?" she muttered, looking up and down the street. Abandoned, cars sat in driveways, trash bins knocked over, but no movement, no birds, no neighbors, not even that one dude who ran every morning shirtless, like he was trying to fight death with cardio. She tried to laugh. "Okay, haha, maybe I missed a town-wide emergency drill." She pulled out her phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just a flashing icon she didn't recognize. It looked like an hourglass, cracked in half. She drove to school, more fog, more silence, the kind that curled into your ears and made your heartbeat sound too loud. Her wipers brushed away condensation as her headlights pierced the thick white, revealing nothing. Empty streets, stores with doors ajar, lights still on in some places like people had just stepped out for a smoke and never returned. When she got to school, the gates were open, but every window stared at her, black and soulless. She got out. Her footsteps echoed off the brick walls like they were being watched. Inside the halls, papers scattered, lights flickering, lockers wide open. A single water fountain dripped steadily like a countdown. She bolted. Next stop, Angel's house. He was the only one she trusted to not completely lose it. Angel was quiet, brooding, the kind of guy who always looked like he just walked out of a music video and would absolutely fight a ghost with nothing but eyeliner and a devil horn ring. Tali was the storm. He was the calm in the center of it. She pulled up to his street. His front door was wide open, her breath caught. "Angel." No answer. She stepped inside. He was sitting on the couch, dressed in all black, staring at a static-filled TV screen. "Took you long enough," he muttered. Tali exhaled. "Jesus, I thought you were, missing or like Thanos snapped." Angel didn't laugh. He just pointed at the screen. "I think we're in a nightmare." Together, they found Bridget. She was holed up in the library, cross-legged on a table like it was the apocalypse and she was queen of the books. Her sarcasm was razor sharp, and her hair looked like she'd wrestled a raccoon, but her eyes lit up when she saw them. "I thought I was the last human on Earth was gonna start charging rent." The air got colder the closer they walked to Main Street, like the fog was breathing. Angel tugged his hoodie tighter and kept his eyes low, as if the ground might suddenly try to swallow him. Tally walked ahead, phone raised like it might miraculously ping. Bridget lagged behind, munching on a half-melted granola bar she looted from an abandoned gas station. I feel like we're in one of those old PlayStation games with janky controls and 0 save points, Bridget said, licking peanut butter off her thumb. Except if I die here, I don't respawn. You won't die, Angel muttered. How do you know? He didn't answer. His jaw flexed instead. They passed the movie theater. Posters still clung to the windows, peeling under moisture. Coming soon, the end of everything was scrawled across the marquee. I hate how on-brand that is, Tally whispered. Shops were empty. Groceries still lined the shelves, carts abandoned mid-aisle. Mannequins in cracked storefronts stood like people frozen mid-scream. It felt staged, too clean, like the town had been vacuumed of life in an instant, and all that remained was them. They stopped in front of St. Elora's church. Its doors were shut, but candlelight flickered from within. Should we? Tally asked. Bad idea, Angel said flatly. Exactly, Bridget smirked. Let's go. The wood creaked as they pushed inside. The church interior was warped with moisture. Bibles melted into pews. The altar was overturned, but what drew them forward was the mural, a massive painting behind the pulpit, cracked and blackened with rot. It showed a gaunt figure cloaked in fog. Its face was empty, not blank, empty, a black void where its features should be. It held a sand glass upside down. Red sand poured upward into the top chamber. Underneath it, words were scrawled in Old English calligraphy. He who steals time grants wishes. The price is everything. What the hell? Bridget whispered, staring at it. This town needs less cryptic murals and more Wi-Fi. Angel's fists clenched. This is my fault. Tally turned. Wait, what? He looked at them both, guilt bleeding into his voice like ink in water. The night before, everything. I had this fight with my dad. I was just so done with everything, with everyone. I said, I wished the world would just disappear. Silence. You think this is your fault? Bridget's voice cracked. He nodded once. I don't think it was just a wish. I think something heard me. The candles blew out, all at once. The room plunged into cold. Tally's breath caught in her throat. Outside the stained glass, the fog pulsed, like something was pressing up against it. Then came the sound. Click, 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 like claws on tile. A shape moved past the doorway, too tall, hunched, with arms that dragged. Its head turned, slowly, too slowly. Tally felt her knees buckle. What is that? Bridget whispered, frozen. Angel grabbed their arms and pulled them into the storage room. They slammed the door shut, just as something scraped against the outer wall. Tally pressed her hand to her mouth, trying not to make a sound. From outside came the low rasp of breath, wet, labored, hungry. Then the door handle jiggled, slow, rhythmic, click, click, click. 10 seconds passed, then 30, then silence. Bridget finally exhaled. What the hell was that? Angel looked pale. I think that's a hunter. Tally whispered, what does it hunt? Angel looked her dead in the eyes. Us. The sun never rose. By the time they made it back to Angel's house, it was still stuck in that grim gray half-light, the kind that bleached the world of color and hope. The fog clung to their clothes like wet hands, whispering with every gust. Inside, the warmth was only an illusion. Angel's dad's house was still and frigid, like something had left it hollow. Family photos were face down. The clock on the microwave blinked 12:00 in an endless loop, like time was mocking them. "I found something," Angel said, pulling a tattered black journal from beneath a loose floorboard in his room. The pages crackled as he flipped through them, each one filled with tightly packed handwriting, angry scribbles, and half-burned symbols. "Wait, this was your dad's?" Tali asked. Angel nodded. He wasn't just angry, he was scared, paranoid. "I always thought it was just grief after my mom, but he was looking into this place, into whatever's happening now." He opened a page with a crude sketch, a massive hourglass in the center of a circle. Around it were jagged arrows pointing inward. A note beside it read, "The heart of the fog. Only the dead can enter. Only the living can flip the glass. Beware the carnival. Time bleeds there." Bridget read over his shoulder. "Y'all are gonna hate me, but that sounds metal as hell." Tali deadpanned. "You would say that about a death carnival." Angel pointed to a crude map. "If this is right, it's past the ravine, the old carnival grounds." "You mean the one that burned down in 91? Bridget raised an eyebrow. Tali grabbed her coat. "Let's go before one of those hunters decides to make house calls." The closer they got to the edge of town, the more distorted the world became. Mailboxes twisted like metal vines. Streetlights flickered and hummed, casting shadows that moved on their own. Trees leaned toward the road, their branches creaking as if listening. They crossed the ravine on foot, over a decaying bridge where the wooden slats cracked and groaned beneath them, and then they saw it. The carnival. It loomed in the fog like something dreaming itself back into existence. The rusted Ferris wheel stood crooked and half-sunken into the earth. The carousel was still spinning, though the music was warped, slow like a record melting in real time. Faded banners rippled in the cold air. "Laugh till you die." Some of the letters had peeled off, spelling, "Last till you die." "Okay," Bridget whispered. "This is officially the worst field trip ever." Tali scanned the grounds. "Let's find the hourglass, fast." They moved through the grounds cautiously. Angel spotted something first, beneath the carousel. A trap door. The lock was broken. He dropped down first, flashlight trembling. Underground, it was colder than ice. A network of maintenance tunnels stretched beneath the carnival. Old posters clung to the walls, their ink bleeding like they were crying. Then came the sound. A slow clap. They froze. A shape stood at the far end of the corridor, 10 feet tall, lanky, covered in black veils that shimmered like static. Its face looked like a shattered clock. Tali whispered, "Is that?" Angel gritted his teeth. "No, that's not a hunter." The figure smiled, or maybe it didn't. It felt like a smile. "Time is slipping," it rasped, voice like ticking glass. "And you are still dreaming of clocks." Then it vanished. They ran until they burst into a massive underground chamber, and there it was, the hourglass, suspended from the ceiling by chains, spinning slowly, one half nearly empty. The sand inside shimmered red, glowing faintly like embers from a dying fire. Tali stepped forward. "We just flip it?" "I think so," Angel said, but claws scraped behind them, growling, wet and sharp. The hunters had followed. Tali opened her eyes to the sound of birds. Not the echoing screech of hunters, not the distant ticking of death, just chirping, morning sun. A beam of light spilled across her bedroom ceiling, dust particles floating peacefully like the past 24 hours hadn't been a crawling nightmare of fog, blood, and monsters with stitched mouths. She sat up slowly. The alarm clock read 7:45 a.m. She blinked. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. Her clothes were clean. No blood, no ash, no carnival. Just her old hoodie with the tear on the sleeve. Was it a dream? She stood and walked to the window. Cars passed by. A neighbor watered their plants. Kids with backpacks waited at the end of the street for the school bus. Perfect, peaceful, wrong. At school, Bridget met her in the parking lot, hair flawless, latte in hand. "Okay, weird question," she said, stepping in close. "Did we survive the apocalypse, or did I just wake up in a Twilight Zone reboot?" Tali stared at her. "You remember?" Everything. The hourglass, the hunters, Angel nearly becoming Fog Chow, the haunted carnival, all of it. Then it wasn't a dream. Nope. Bridget took a sip of her drink. It's worse. It's still happening. They found Angel at his locker. He looked pale, haunted. Bandages peeked out from under his shirt, fresh. "I bled out on the floor," he said, voice quiet. "I felt it. That wasn't a dream." Tali stared at him. "But we're back. We flipped the hourglass." He shook his head. "I think we flipped it too late." That night, Tali tried to sleep. She couldn't. The street outside her window was too quiet. The stars were wrong. They twinkled in places where they hadn't before, like constellations had shifted. She reached for her phone to check the time. It glowed, that same hourglass icon. It was upside down, and the sand was dripping upward again. She sat bolt upright. Something whispered from under her bed, a slow, dragging breath, wet and wheezing. She reached down and lifted the blanket. Nothing. She exhaled, heart slamming. Then she looked up. Her closet door was open. A shadow stood inside, not moving, not breathing, watching. It whispered in a voice stitched together from old clock hands and rotting fog. "You brought us back with you." The next day at school, no one else seemed to notice anything strange. Teachers taught, bells rang, the sky was blue, but Angel saw it too. The janitor's reflection didn't move. The clock above the cafeteria was ticking backward. A girl in the hallway kept crying in the exact same loop, over and over like a glitch. They regrouped under the bleachers after school. "I don't think we left," Angel whispered. "I think we brought the time stealer here." Bridget swore under her breath. "So what now? We're cursed, haunted, glitching into death?" Tali stared at her phone. The hourglass had cracked further, and this time there were teeth in the sand. Tali woke up standing in the middle of the street, barefoot, wearing her pajamas, no memory of getting there. The sun was gone. The town was frozen in blue dusk. No cars, no wind, just that awful silence that had become too familiar. She turned slowly. Her house was gone. In its place stood the carnival again, only this time it was upside down. The Ferris wheel spun in the sky like a broken halo. The carousel horses screamed as they turned, and behind her, a mirror, standing tall in the middle of the road, cracked, glowing faintly. She stepped toward it, drawn like a moth to a flame. She snapped awake, gasping in her bed. 4:04 a.m. The time flickered, then it changed. 3:59, 3:02, 2:46, 8:88, then blank. At school, Bridget wasn't in class. Tali found her in the girls' bathroom, standing in front of the mirror. Her lips moved, but she made no sound. "Bridget." She turned slowly. Her mouth opened and spoke backward. "S'emple essa help Tali backed up. "What the hell?" Bridget blinked fast, eyes glassy, then collapsed like a puppet whose strings were suddenly cut. She came to 30 seconds later, gasping. "I couldn't stop it," she sobbed. "I was asleep. I was awake, but I wasn't here. I was stuck in the fog, in that other place." Angel appeared in the doorway. "It's happening to all of us." He held up his arm. It had aged. Just one arm, wrinkled, liver spotted, thin skin sagging. "Every time I dream," he said, "it takes a part of me." That night, they made a pact. No sleep, no dreams, not until they find a way to fix this. But the time stealer doesn't play fair. Tali fell asleep while brushing her teeth and woke up in the hallway of her high school, completely empty. Except for one classroom glowing red through the crack in the door. She walked toward it. Inside, desks were flipped, the blackboard was cracked, and standing in the center of the room, wearing a teacher's uniform made of clock hands and fog, was him, the time stealer. No face, just shifting void, no voice, just ticking, but she heard him in her bones. "You flipped the glass, but time still bleeds." She tried to run. The door disappeared. Then her desk appeared behind her, her name carved into it, and on top of it was a tiny hourglass, just for her. The sand inside was almost gone, and crawling inside it, a tiny hunter, staring back at her with a mouthful of glass teeth. Tali screamed and woke up in her bed again, but now the room was filled with static. Her reflection in the mirror was still blinking, lagging behind her movements. A whisper filled the room. "You'll never wake up all the way again." The plan was simple. Fake their deaths, let go of time, slip into the space in between. The execution, anything but simple. Angel lay on the floor of Tali's garage, heartbeat slowing from the cold. A homemade cocktail of sleeping pills, ice packs, and adrenaline suppression. He looked at her, half-conscious. "If I don't come back, delete my playlist. No one needs to know I listen to Taylor Swift during breakdowns." Tali grinned through tears. "You're ridiculous." Bridget gave them both the thumbs up and swallowed her own mix. "See you in hell, besties." And then, darkness. Tali opened her eyes to white, not light, not a room, just blankness, stretching in all directions. Time didn't exist here, neither did gravity. She stood or floated. It was impossible to know. Angel appeared beside her, flickering like a VHS glitch. Bridget blinked into focus with a scream, tumbling upward. "Why does my soul feel like a Windows screensaver?" Tali reached for her. "You okay?" "I think I'm dreaming inside my brain, like my neurons are having a panic attack." They turned slowly. In the distance, if distance even existed, stood a cracked cathedral made of bone-white hourglass glass. It pulsed with red light, like a heartbeat. The final sand glass waited there, and so did something else. A hunter larger than any they'd seen, 20 feet tall, masked. Its arms were made of swinging pendulums, its mouth ticked open and shut with razor gears. "Welcome to the sliver. Only one may flip the last glass. The others become part of me." They didn't wait. Angel charged first, screaming like thunder, swinging a broken metal pipe that wasn't in his hand until it was. The hunter struck with clockwork precision, knocking him across the glass floor so hard it cracked the space beneath him. Bridget screamed and hurled a fireball. Where the hell did that come from? That melted part of the hunter's mask. Tali ran straight toward the sand glass on the altar. It spun violently in its cage of red chains. The sand inside was almost gone, and her name was carved into the glass. The hunter roared and swung at her. Everything slowed. Tali saw every second split apart like shards, saw herself dying, saw herself saving them, saw herself becoming the next time stealer. And then she heard it. A voice, a child's voice. "You wish to be alone." Tali froze. It wasn't the time stealer's voice. It was Angel's voice, a younger version, and there, standing inside the hourglass, was a small boy, black hoodie, metal band tee, eyes full of pain. "You made me," he whispered. "You fed me every time you wished the world would leave you alone. I am your loneliness given shape. I am your time stolen." Tali gasped. "You're not a monster." "No," the boy said. "I was a child who stopped time to stop hurting." And then his face split in half like glass. The time stealer was born again in screams and broken seconds. Tali grabbed the hourglass and flipped it. The world shattered. Time collapsed. And she woke up screaming in her garage. Angel gasped beside her, coughing. Bridget rolled onto her side, eyes wide, heart racing. They were alive. They were back. And the hourglass tattoo that appeared on all their wrists, it wasn't moving anymore. It had been 3 days. No fog, no hunters, no red hourglass symbols, just school, sleep, breathable air. But something still felt wrong. Tali sat on her porch in the late afternoon light, staring at the sky. The clouds moved like normal. People walked dogs again. The mail came on time. Everything had slotted back into place with suspicious ease. Too easy. Bridget joined her with a soda in one hand and a scarf in the other. "Cold out today," she said casually, "though it's been stuck at 43 degrees for 3 days straight. Not weird at all." Tali didn't laugh. She just nodded. "Have you checked your wrist?" Bridget glanced down at her tattoo, the hourglass that had appeared after the Sliver realm, still there, still unmoving, but no longer cracked. "Looks fine," she said. "Maybe we beat it. Maybe that's just the scar." Angel walked up the driveway, a plastic bag swinging from one hand. "Got snacks. Also, weird thought. Why do none of the clocks in my house match anymore?" Tali and Bridget shared a glance. Then, together, they all looked up at the sky. The sun hadn't moved. It was still caught in that exact same afternoon slant it had been for days, like time had hit pause. That night, Tali couldn't sleep. She kept seeing that little boy in her dream, the child version of Angel, the one inside the hourglass, the one who whispered, "I only wanted the pain to stop." She kept hearing it like an echo in the corners of her room, under the bed, in the vents, behind the mirror, and then her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, heart in her throat. One new notification. She opened it. It was from the alarm app she hadn't used in months. "Time isn't done with you." The hourglass cracked again. She dropped the phone. The light in her room shifted. Shadows lengthened. Her breath fogged. And outside the window, the fog had returned. She ran outside in bare feet, heart slamming, pulse like thunder. Bridget stood in the middle of the cul-de-sac, barefoot too, phone still glowing in her hand. "Bestie, tell me this is a prank, because if I hallucinate one more blood sand hourglass, I swear I'm moving to space." Angel emerged from his house in silence. He didn't have to say a word. They all knew. The countdown had restarted. That night, as the three sat on the roof of Angel's house, watching the fog gather again across their small town, Tali whispered, "Did we ever really leave that place?" Angel looked up at the stars, which weren't twinkling anymore, just still, like pinpricks in paper. "No," he said softly, "I think we just flipped the hourglass. The wrong way." Bridget shivered. "Then what now?" Tali looked down at her wrist. The tattoo hourglass was moving again. Only this time the sand wasn't red. It was black.